Hey YouTube, 118 Seth Shadow here. Time for another Market Watch update. It's Thursday today. So, we got a big one going today with a bunch of reveals that just occurred, and on top of that, Maelstrom is going to be announced next week for set 8. So, today's theme is going to be around Maelstrom hype as well as a bunch of stuff to anticipate for set 8 that we still haven't seen yet. So without further ado, let's get started. So, for those of you who have been playing Cardfight Vanguard for a while, I think all of you know of Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom. This card has been iconic since the Limit Break format of the original game, and is now being brought back into D format with its own setup. We don't know its effects yet, but it'll be announced next week. But in anticipation of that, I wanted to go through a few items that most players may be keeping their eye out for with Maelstrom being announced. Starting with this guy, Prized Trident. This card is a common from set 3, and when your other unit attacks, if it's your 5th battle, you put this card into the soul to countercharge 1. Currently the card sits at around the 50-cent range. It's been climbing up for quite a while, and it's just generically good with decks like Flagberg, and futuristically you could even play this in Roroa, especially since Roroa soul guzzles like mad. But honestly, I don't know how much more it can go even if Maelstrom gets a pretty good reveal. It is a common, as I mentioned, and set 3 does have a fair amount of printings. One thing to keep in mind though is that there is a second version of Prized Trident, a promo, and I'm pretty sure this isn't a foil, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only thing different about this one is the number. I think you only got this from shops when you purchased into set 3 or for some other reason. I know there were a bunch of cards that got made into promos. Usually they were full arts though. But this one, for some reason, didn't get made into a full art, so I don't know why it's 5 minimum. People are buying it at the $6 range, and there aren't too many listings available. But definitely keep an eye out for this promo one. It's Prized Trident's highest rarity, so to speak. And then another one that comes out of set 3 that you might want to look at is Creed Assault. This card cannot attack if your rearguard didn't stand by a card effect, but this is Maelstrom that we're talking about for the future, so more than likely Creed Assault could find its way into the deck, but we'll see futuristically. But the thing that makes this card strong is that it's a 20k attacker whenever it attacks the Vanguard, hence why it has the restriction of being unable to attack. Because being able to swing 20k is automatically at least a 10k shield, and if you're going first, that's at least 15k shield. It has a foil version as well, so definitely want to pay attention to that one, which I think is around the $3 mark. There are still plenty of listings available. Just like with Prized Trident, this one's a common, and honestly, it's not selling high at all. It did have a hype moment for the last few weeks, and it could see more of it as we go along, but we'll see what happens. And then yet another card from set 3. Set 3 just has a bunch of stuff that could be generically used within Stoichia multi-attack. But you've got Sylvan Hornbeast Gabreg. This one, when your other unit in the same column as this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast to give it 10k, then you choose all your opponent's rear guards, and your opponent can't guard with the same grade as any of the rear guards you selected. So if your opponent's got a grade 1 on the board, you can select it, and then they can't perfect guard Gabrig. So if it's powerful enough, they'd need a fair bunch of triggers. But if your opponent also has a grade 0 on the board for some reason, that means grade 1s and grade 0s will not be able to block this card. The problem is its skill only works if a unit in the same column attacks, so you would typically use this with Magnolia Elder. You wouldn't necessarily be able to use it with Flagberg because you had no real back row attacks outside of the new promo, which only works behind the Vanguard. But Maelstrom historically has had column switching base skills, so there is the possibility for this card to see play as a tech option in Maelstrom depending on what support it gets. So I definitely keep an eye out for this one. This card does have an SP as well, which is currently around the $4 mark. And speaking of... Oh yeah, we're not there yet. I got one more to show you before that. Blooming Petal Caryophyllus. This card is also from set 3 and is a great soul engine for any Stoichia deck. When this card's placed on rear, if you have no cards in your soul, then you soul charge 2. It's a pretty generic soul charge 2. Of course, compared to most other grade 2s, it's only a 9k, so this card is not going to be a great offense. It's literally there just to provide you soul in the case you run out. And decks such as Flagberg, Varroa can run out of soul pretty easily, so you might find this card played in those decks often. Leonorn as well will usually tech this in case you're running out of soul. The card is a pretty consistent $2 now, though there are a few listings underneath that. And it has a foil version which is around $3 to $4 right now. So definitely keep an eye out for those once we've got the Maelstrom hits. Now to wrap up the Stoichia lineup for this market watch, the overtrigger for Stoichia, Bless Favor. Bless Favor's SP at this point is still under the $29 mark, and it's down significantly from its past point of market prices in the $30 range. In a prior market watch, I talked about how this card did hit the $40 mark at one point, but you could see this card get bought out if Maelstrom proves to be very popular upon its release. So definitely keep an eye out for the SP. You shouldn't have to worry much about the regularity of this card. There are 2 of them, and they range from like the $4 to $6 mark, if I'm not mistaken. Then switching over to another theme that is still to be anticipated with set 8, Tegrea. So, we still haven't heard any news about the new Maple that's going to come out yet, so I thought I'd go over and see where Tegrea's support is looking. When we look at the main grade 3 for it, it's still around the $5 mark with plenty of listings available at this point. Had a bit of a peak during October, but then fell right back off, likely due to some of the initial talks of some new orders that Set 8 is bringing to Tegrea as well. And there's been a bunch of other announcements in regards to when we're getting our promo version. And that should be coming, I think, starting set 9? So it's still a ways away, but Tegrea is something that can potentially see a lot of a value gain once these cards start to come out. And then you've got the second version, the dark version, one who blooms in the dark Tegrea, which is currently a little higher than its main counterpart. Now a $7 card on average. And just like with the regular one, it has the potential to spike up. It actually is already seeing a spike in comparison to its regular counterpart, so if you're looking to pick up the Tegrea, this would be a good time to do so. I don't think these cards will get that much lower than the $5 mark. It is a nice deck. And ultimately, it also comes with a very well-played staple in a bunch of other decks, Atrocious Moth Girl Maple. As you can see, this card has gone way up in value from its initial release. It was 5, then it went to 10, then 12, and now it's all the way up to the 25 plus mark, and for good reason. This card is just a free plus every single time you Persona ride, and it can be played not only in Cater Sanctuary, but Stoichia as well. So both decks have a generic a generic free plus for Persona rides, which is also a free intercept and a free 20k beat stick in the event of a Persona ride. Some decks may even just use it for sacrificial fodder, such as Roroa, depending on how you choose to play it. But this card, we'll have to see how it plays with the newer version of Maple that's going to come out, though, because its skill does require that you not have a Maple on the board already in order to use the revival effect, which is why you would only play one copy of this, or maybe two copies, if you're not playing Tegrea. If you're playing Tegrea, you probably play 4 copies of this regardless. But definitely be careful. This card is not likely to go down anytime soon, so if you want to pick it up, you had best pick it up now, because I don't think this card can get much lower. Then we also had some new Chaos support come out recently. Particularly, we got a new Mikani. And thanks to that, it looks like the SP version ended up on buyout status. Now there's only one listing left at $20, but the triple rare still has quite a few listings left, just over the dollar mark. And if we take a look at the SP, yeah, looks like a bunch of those buyouts happened very recently, and 3 of the remaining ones that were all at the $20 range were bought out today. We'll see how well this plays out. Chaos, unfortunately, has been like the underdog of set 5, where all of its cards just don't seem to get nearly as much attention as the others. Even if you take a look, Chaos himself, there's one listing left for the SP at $35, but if you look at the triple rare, this card is still under $1. So there really isn't any, you can't really get much lower than this. So if you want to play Chaos, just pick it up now. Don't be greedy waiting for 25 cents on this thing, because I'm pretty sure at the very least it could go up to $1 at the very minimum. But then if you wanted to pick up the starter Profound Mercy Chaos, that card is now out of stock. And then the only other SP that's really low in value at this point is the Grade 1 version of Chaos at about $3. Definitely pay attention to this. Well, rather, since we already have almost everything that Chaos is going to be getting, if you want to play the deck, you better buy into it now. If other people suddenly find the deck is very favorable, these prices are going to rise. Now, to wrap up my Market Watch segment today, there's one more card that also hasn't been revealed yet in set 8, Knight of Blackness Obscuded. So Obscuded is also likely getting a retrain in set 8. We got the announcement for one of Eva's new orders in there, as well as Eva's sister in set 8, but we still haven't seen anything yet for a retrain of this card. So right now it's at the $11 mark with quite a few copies to pick up. The SP is already way above. I don't know if that could get much higher since it's at the $90 to $100 mark, even with new support coming out, but we'll see what happens. And that's a wrap for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thanks, guys.